lovelies, welcome back to my channel. I'm Megan. Yeah, so I'm putting out a third video about limb difference. If you've been following me for a few years, you'll know that my videos about limb difference have been very sporadic, like once every few years. So I'm super proud to be working on a few of these videos because they mean a lot to me, and I'm so proud to be part of the limb difference community. So really, I just wanted to end this little series about the witches, focusing on the positives, what's come out of it. You know, sometimes things happen for a reason, and while it's not great that it happened, I think a lot of positives are going to come from it and continue to come from it, and we are all now speaking up and having our voices heard.
I'm Jo. You may know me online as Footless Jo. I am a below-the-knee amputee currently residing in Colorado Springs, Colorado. I think one of the coolest things to come out of this is realizing what an incredible, powerful, and respectful community I belong to, that being the limb difference community. The way that people have come together, supported one another, and encouraged healthy, helpful, necessary conversation over the mistakes that were made in this film is so impressive. It is incredible to see, and I am honored to be surrounded by so many amazing people.
I think that this movement has created a sense of community for us and really given us a place where we can all come together and tell each other our stories, and I think that's been the most beautiful thing out of all of this.
I guess this is one good that comes from this, is that, you know, our community has been able to band together, fighting the good fight and asking for true representation as well.
So I found a lot of amazing Instagram accounts, which I hadn't found before, so it's been great in that respect, because whilst I'm very much obviously a part of the LGBTQ+ community, I'm not so much a part of the limb difference community, but hi, I am now. So that's been a positive.
I'm so grateful that I got to be a part of it, and I got to meet new friends that look just like me, and that's just the best part of all of it.
I think one positive that's really come from all this is the conversation around it, and I think it's started to make people think and heighten the awareness, and I think that is brilliant. It's causing us to start having these conversations potentially with kids and adults and educating people on limb difference.
I am a mother of two. I have two young children, and I want them to grow up in a society, in a world where it doesn't matter your age, shape, size, gender, disability, sexuality, or anything else that might make you be put in a box and labelled. I don't want any of that to be made out as if it's something to be ashamed of, or if it's wrong or not beautiful, or if you are that then you can't be successful. There should be no barriers to beauty, success, peace, or anything else in this world. And when it comes to disability, I feel like we are the last barrier to break within the fashion industry and within the film industry. You just don't see us enough, and if you are, in the movies we're always the villain or the bad guy, and in a fairy tale, in books, there's just not enough of us being shown in our true, beautiful light.
I think this community has done an amazing job of raising awareness and spreading out that message, and I think everyone just needs to continue doing what they're doing and spreading that awareness.
And I think that the next step for us is getting more disabled people at those decision-making tables in Hollywood, so that we can prevent this from happening, and we can prevent kids from ever having to see themselves portrayed in a negative light. And I think that would just ultimately showcase more disabilities in film in the proper way, and showcase our strength, our adaptability, our courage, our wiseness. I mean, there's so many different ways that they can go with that, and I'm so excited to see that happening in Hollywood, and I can't wait.
I think now, like, whilst it was really disappointing that happened, I think it's a time for people with limb differences, people who have a social media presence, to speak up and to use it as a chance to talk positively about people with limb differences. But there are people who have similar disabilities or have similar experiences, and there are people out there that understand what you're going through and that have done amazing things. And that's my aim really out of all of this, is to show some positive outcomes from having a disability like this, and showing that it doesn't have to hold you back.
We're not witches, and we're not scary, and it's not creepy. It's a normal part of life. People are born like this, and that's normal, and that's okay. And we need to stop having characters in films that are, quite frankly, just so like misrepresented of who we actually are. I've never seen a limb difference like that represented in any film before until this. So it's like, this is what we get, this is what we have to deal with. Until a limb difference is represented in a film where it's not depicted as scary, then I think that's what we have to aim for, really. Thank you.
Something that's been a little different about this controversy than other controversies I've seen online or in the media is the way this conversation has been handled. Every post I've read, every video I've watched coming from the limb difference community has been so articulate and well-spoken, and with a hope to educate and make the future better, instead of just focusing on canceling something because it made a mistake. Because frankly, it was such a damaging decision that was made with the witches. It hurt people. But for me, watching this all unfold, realizing that if you use your voice, it can make a difference. I think amazing things have come out of this. I just learned the other day that Warner Brothers is going to be working with the Lucky Finn Project for future projects that involve limb difference. Like, that's amazing, and that would not have happened if people had not raised their hand, raised their voices, and said, hey, this isn't cool. You may not know why this isn't cool, so let me explain this to you. I'll be honest, I didn't really realize how much representation mattered because I never had to think about it before losing my leg. After becoming an amputee, I started to realize that 99.9% of everyone who people looked up to, who people aspired to be, was different than me, looked different than me. And even going through that as an adult, it was a little bit challenging to reconcile this idea of I am different than other people. But when I found people who represented who I was, who represented my life experience, my disability, my physical difference, it was such a source of inspiration and encouragement for me. It legitimately, this is gonna sound so cheesy, but it legitimately let me know that I could do a lot more than some limiting beliefs I had about myself and about disability. I really hope that as we move forward into this evolving world, that representation is done better and done more often. It probably shouldn't, but it surprises me how important representation is in the media, online, wherever you're looking. So I really hope that an accurate representation that promotes a real and loving and accepting and awesome view of people, rather than what has previously been seen with demonizing or turning into sad characters, tragic stories of people who have disabilities and poor them, they can't do anything. That's just not accurate, and it's also a really harmful message to promote. So I hope that going forward, we can move into a world where representation is real and more widespread.
Education is something that's very important. Understanding that we are people, we have feelings. Being treated a certain way because you're different does impact you and is important to acknowledge. So, thank you. With that, I'll say goodbye. Thank you.
I am hopeful that this will now prevent anything like this from happening again. I am hoping that it educates people to be more aware of these things. I can't believe in this day and age that it's happened in the first place. I'm keeping my hopes and prayers up that everyone learns something from this, and it also allows the limb different community voices to be heard that little bit louder.
For me, I'm all about promoting disabled bodies. As anyone can see on my Instagram, disabled bodies are good bodies, and they're not scary, they're not other, they're just the way they are. And I hope every disabled kid grows up feeling that. That is why I think there needs to be a dramatic change in the way disabled bodies are portrayed in this industry. So I hope that I can make a small difference in that, in the work that I do. And I just want to send massive love and solidarity to every single person who doesn't see themselves represented in this industry. I will do my damnedest to make sure that things change for the better. Much love.
We need accurate representation, period. In moving forward, what I would like to see personally is I would love to see Hollywood truly commit to diversity, equity, inclusion. We need to see people with disabilities in positions of power working all the way down. We need people with disabilities writing stories. We need actors with disabilities acting them. We need the whole gamut all the way up to the very top. Who are the top decision makers making decisions on, about, and around disability? We need that representation. So that is the change that I want to see.
I think it's really important now that Warner Brothers uses this opportunity, and Hollywood in general, to educate society about limb difference and diversity and minority groups on a larger scale, because it's important that when we start these conversations that they continue, and the only way that they can continue is when larger organisations come to the table and engage in the conversation, and to ensure that people are being heard and that the message is being spread far and wide. I think it's important to educate one another in a respectful and gentle way. When we know more, we can do more, and when we know more, we can do better as well. So it's about working as a collective to ensure that children around the world grow up knowing that their differences are in fact a wonderful part of who they are as a person, and it's these differences that in fact unite us, no matter where we are, how old we are, our cultural ethnicity, all of those things enriched by our differences.
But I think on a small scale, just to keep moving forward, I think we could all be making the effort to have the conversation about limb difference or limb loss. Just make it a lot more of a casual conversation. So I think if you do have a limb difference, or if you have lost a limb, just try to get a really open conversation about that, letting people know it's okay, maybe talking about your achievements that you've had and what you've been able to do differently maybe. I find that people always find that really interesting. It doesn't have to be this big global hashtag and this big global movement. We can be doing things every day that can make small changes, and I really do believe we're turning the tide on this conversation.
Personally, what I'm hoping to achieve with this platform that I have is sort of breaking down some of the stereotypes I've seen about people who struggle with mental illness, or who have a disability, or who are amputees, and talk about what life is really like. I have found over and over again that authenticity promotes connection. So when you can tell your story, when you connect with a person, when you say, this is where I really am, this is what I'm really feeling, this is what I'm really struggling with or really excited about, people get to see you as you, a person, and some of their beliefs or stereotypes are broken down, and I hope to continue to be a part of that. I hope that I can be a small part of creating a world where young people can grow up in, if they have a limb difference, if they have a disability, if they're struggling with something, knowing that they're accepted and loved and not having to fight so hard against some of the negative stereotypes that have been created in the past.
We want to be seen, we want to be heard, we want to be embraced, celebrated, represented. We are worthy, we are beautiful.
Be proud if you have limb difference, because it is beautiful. We're not going to let it get us down. We are going to keep fighting the good fight and spreading positive messages, because limb difference is beautiful. The conversation doesn't stop here. I'm sure you'll be seeing much more about this. Bye! Please do hit that subscribe button if you haven't already.